14a Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the top. First word on line is Beglayhu, and we're by Gufa. And we're continuing where we left off yesterday with the Tuma, the laws of purity and impurity of handles. So Gufa. Kol Yodei Sa'ichlin Shebesasim Begarin Taharis. And this is what we finished off with yesterday. We finished off with this Praisa. We were discussing this Praisa. All the others that are all the handles of fruit or vegetables which are in the sasan of the gairin, and we'll have to see what sasan means again. We spoke about this yesterday. We went through different opinions, but again, we'll just leave it vague for now. In the threshing floor, it will be tahar. So if I have any of my my grain on the threshing floor, the yadais of the grain, the stalk that is close to the actual grain, is not going to cannot become tameh because it's insignificant. Now Rabbi Yossi mitame Rabbi Yossi mitame, and Rabbi Yossi went ahead and mitame. So now we're going on. The first line is my bisasan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the wide lines. So my bisasan ended on 14a. My bisasan. What is this sasan that we were discussing till now? So Rabbi Yechon Amar bisasan mamish. Rabbi Yechon meant to say that you actually trampled it. Once you spread it on the floor and you started trampling it, even though maybe before it was all bundled up, and when you bundled it up, you showed your intention is that you want, at that point, perhaps all the grain could become tameh. But once you start trampling it, you did a big action, and that big action shows you no longer want what's left on the threshing floor, and therefore the others will be permitted. No, it's more of a machshav, it's more of a thought. Once I bring it onto the threshing floor and I untie and I start spreading it around, that is called there is an action here, right? Because you are untying it and spreading it around. And spreading around is enough to go ahead. But however, Rashi writes that's a Maisa Zuta. It's a small act. It's not enough of an act according to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says it has to be trampled. Rabbi Yossi wants to say that just by spreading out, you showed your intention. You no longer want the grain, and all you want is what you're left with is going to be the kernel. But you're totally there's no need anymore for any of the stalks, any other part, any part of the grain but the actual kernel. And therefore, just by spraying it out, you showed your change of mind, and therefore now the handles of the stalks, which are close to the grain, is no longer going to be tameh. Now, Bishleim le Rabbi Lazar Damar B'Sasan Hater, or Rabbi Bishleim le Rabbi Damar B'Sasan Hater Agdan Hainu Mitame Rabbi Yossi. Now, according to Rabbi, the reason that it makes sense that sasan means to spread out, and that's why Rabbi Yossi was mitame, because a Maisa Zuta, as Rashi explains, a small act is not significant enough to show that I plan on. It's not enough of an act to show that I want to go ahead and get rid of this item as food, and therefore you have to do a big act. We're on 14a. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the wide lines, or 1, 2, or about 4 lines from the Mishna on top of the Mishna. But if the reason is, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that really means trampling, then why is Rabbi Yossi? What's the reason for Rabbi Yossi to go ahead and say why? Okay, what did Rabbi Yossi say? Hold on. Rabbi Yossi says it's matame, right? So according to Rabbi Yochanan, that says it's sasayin mamish, that really means trampling. So then, my mitam Rabbi Yossi. Why is Rabbi Yossi saying it's going to be tameh? You did a full act. You actually trampled on it. So why would Rabbi Yossi say that still the yad? And we already learned that an act could change the status of a vessel. So if I originally collected this grain and it was all going to be tameh, then if I act, yeah.
Page position again.
Oh, I just said it. It's yeah, sure. It's 14a. It's 1, 2. You got it?
You got me.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So if we said originally that if I did an act that created something, or even if I had a thought that turned something into a vessel, into the status of a vessel, I didn't act to remove it. So Rabbi Yossi said that you trampled it. That idea that of trampling should be enough. So why is, according to Rabbi Yochanan that said that it's trampling, why did Rabbi Yossi say, according to his opinion, then why is it mitame? Why is it still mitame? Because since it's still usable to flip it over with a pitchfork. Now we're going to finish off once we talk about, and therefore the pitchfork itself, there's some utilization to that little bit connected to the kernel, the even though it's insignificant now, but there's some use to, therefore still be mitama. Amar Rav Elazar, once we're on this topic of pitchforks, why is it that the prayers of the righteous are like a pitchfork? I'm going to tell you, just like this pitchfork sort of like it flips over the grain in the garden, in the threshold, from place to place, and also the prayers shall tzaddikim, also the prayers of the righteous, they flip over the thought and the intention of Hashem from a midah, from a strong midah to more of a much more merciful midah. Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on 14a. Mesachem ben Nesarim, Devar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that one is permitted to go ahead and use planks as chach, big planks of wood. Rameir Eiser, Rameir said no, you're not allowed to go ahead and use big planks of wood. And the reason why he answers it, and we're going to see that the reason is that we're afraid once they get very big, it gzeres tikra. If they are very large, if they're large enough, someone's going to walk into the sukkah, look up, and say, "Wow, I could eat in my house. This roof is no different than my house because it's extremely wide boards. And houses are usually made with boards. Now, if I have a board that's 4 tfachim wide, it's going to be kosher. On condition that one does not go ahead and sleep underneath it. And the reason is, and Rashi also explains, the reason is that hold on. Yeah. So the reason is that the boards which are 4 tfachim wide is going to be a problem of sleeping underneath it. It's wider than 4. So number right there is called anything which is wider than 4 tfachim is usually going to be a problem of apostle schach, and the Gemara have to explain why is it that it doesn't invalidate the entire sukkah. Why is it that, according to the opinion that 4 tfachim invalidates the sukkah, why not sleeping on that? Why sleeping in a different part of the sukkah help? If I already have invalid schach, that should invalidate the entire sukkah. Okay, says Gemara. Amar Rav Machlekes ben Nesarim sheish levehen arba. So Rav says the whole argument between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, if I use planks of wood, is only if they are 4 tfachim. 4 tfachim plus, that's where the problem arises. But the Rabbi Meir is because Rabbi Meir is like gzeres tikra. Rabbi Meir is afraid, he's worried about this gzeres tikra, this that most of houses are made with boards 4 tfachim wide plus. Therefore, we're afraid that people are going to walk in and think that you can sleep in the house. Rabbi Yehuda less like gzeres tikra. He says no, he's not worried about it. According to this first opinion of Rav, both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda do agree that planks of wood which are less than 4 tfachim, everyone is going to agree that it's going to be kosher. Why? And because majority of houses have planks, majority of roofs of houses are not made with planks which are thinner than 4 tfachim. If anything thinner than 4 tfachim wide is not a problem. There's no decree of a house. The Shmuel of a roof. The Shmuel says that's right. Shmuel Shem ben Arba Machlekes. No, when it's less than 4, that's where the argument is between because Avol Yesh ben Arba. But once there's 4 tfachim, they are called psula. Everyone will agree that 4 tfachim will be a problem of everyone will agree. Both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah will both agree anything wider than 4 will be a problem for a sukkah. And the reason is that in this case, for Meir, even less than 4, he's worried about it because I think it's between 3 and 4. Anything less than 3, everyone agrees is fine. 3 and 4 is going to be the problem because Meir, in many places in the Gemara, he's chayshish l'miyuta. He is worried about the small amount of people that do have. He's worried for the minority. A minority of houses do have planks of wood which are less than 4 tefachim. So again, we have a machlekes. Rav understands the machlekes. We have a machlekes and a machlekes to understand the machlekes. So Rav understands our Mishnah is talking. The argument in the Mishnah is only above 4. Anything less than 4, everyone agrees is going to be kosher. Shmuel holds that the Mishnah is only arguing below 4. Anything above 4, everyone will agree is invalid. Less than 4 is where the argument kicks in. When we said, and they're not 4, even less than 3. If it's less than 3, then what in the world are you building your sukkah with? You need to build something. If it's less than 3, these are reeds. These are as thin as reeds. Amra Papa, this is what I meant to say. Yesh ben arba'a they were called psula. Shmuel meant to say if it's less than 4, if it's more than 4 tvachim plus, everyone will agree it's invalid. Pachas mashalisha they were called kshera. If it's less than 3 tvachim, everyone will agree that it's kosher. My taima kanim ba'amaninu, because they're thin enough. No one's going to think that if you sleep under a house, under a sukkah, which the beams or the planks are less than 3 tvachim, no one's going to mix that up and think a house is permitted. The machlekes takes place between 3 and 4. Mar savar kivin delisnu shir makaim loigazrinan. Rabbi Yehuda said that since it's below 4, there's no gzeira. Mar savar kivin denafke luhu mitayr slavud gazrinan. But Rameir said once it goes above 3, once it bypasses the halach of lavud. Lavud is the idea that anything's 3 tvachim wide, it just fills the what's out. If you have a piece of wood on the left, a piece of wood on the right, you have 3 tvachim in between. I'll just say the wood continues on. So anything less than 3, once something gets above that level of lavud, once it bypasses lavud, then we're going to say that it's a problem, and therefore we're going to make exer. Now, and it makes sense sort of, because anything less than 3 anyway you have lavud, so there's really nothing to worry about. Once you get more than 3, it makes sense already to start worrying. According to Rameir, he starts worrying about. Okay, now Tanan, we learned our own Mishnah. If you put at the end of the Mishnah, if you put planks of wood which are 4 tefachim, it's going to be kosher. On condition you don't sleep underneath it. Now, according to Shmuel, who said when it's less than 4, it's a machlekes. And if it's more than 4, everyone agrees that it's going to be invalid. So it makes sense you shouldn't sleep underneath it, because once you hit, because it's more than 4 tvachim, anything more than 4 tvachim, there will be a problem. So Shmuel's understanding this last line of the Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rameir, because everyone agrees more than 4 is going to be a problem. But according to Rav, that understands that the whole argument is above 4, and according to Rav Yehuda, anything more than 4 is still going to be valid. Then what's the last line in the Mishnah? Why is the last line in the Mishnah telling us that if it's less than 4, you shouldn't sleep underneath it? It's not true. It's not a statement. That statement is not true according to both Rabbi Yehuda and Rameir. It's only according to Rameir, not Rabbi Yehuda. So this is potentially a question on Rav, who holds that anything less, everyone agrees, less than 4 is not going to be, it's not going to be a problem, because no one should agree with such a statement. So Misfaras Tivra Kalhi, do you think the last line of the Mishnah is going according to Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda? Seifa Asyan the Rameir. No, the Seifa is a continuation of Rameir. So if you look at the Mishnah, it says Mesachem Ben Saram Devi Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, all the planks of wood, you can use any plank of wood. Well, it depends. According to one, it's more than 4. According to one, it's less than 4. Rameir says it's forbidden. Now, according to, depends who you go like, but according to Rav, the idea that anything less than 4 tefachim, that 4 tefachim, you shouldn't sleep underneath it, is a continuation of Rameir. But according to Shmuel, that's the second opinion, this last line could be according to either one. Okay, now okay, Tashma Shnei Sadidin Mitzdarfin. So we're going to bring a question out, and we're about to turn on to 14b. Tashma Shnei Sadidin Mitzdarfin. 2 curtains could join together to be Mekabel Tuma. Now, 2 curtains, 2 curtains. They could join together to make arba tefachim on a sukkah and create a schach pasol, because at that point, so let's say I have 2 tefachim of one sheet, and I have 2 curtains of another sheet, and I put them together. Once I hit 4 tefachim of something which is now since they join together, so I have something which is 4. We view as 2 tefachim as one joint 4 tefachim. So I have something of 4 tefachim on top of on my schach, of invalid schach, because it's makabel tuma. It's a baguette. It's a piece of cloth. It's clothing. once I have a schach puzzle on top of my roof with 4 tfachim, it will invalidate the entire, as long as it's in the center, and as long as we'll see in a minute how far it has to be certain far away from the wall. But it could invalidate the entire sukkah. So we're on the top of Yudalid Amud base 14b. However, we'll say two boards that are two boards that each are 2 tfachim will not join together to create a level, to create a size as if there's a 4 tefach board in front of us. Now, Rav Meir says af nesirim kisadinim. But Rav Meir argues. Rav Meir says that no, the boards could very well be like the curtains, and the boards will join together. Okay. Now, Bishleim Shmuel, according to Shmuel, again, Shmuel understands the machlekes in our Mishnah between Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is that the whole argument is less than 4. But everyone will agree more than 4 will be a problem to be an invalid sukkah. Bishleim Shmuel damar b'shein behena ba'arba machlekes avish ben arba dirakal pesula. So according to that, which we just said, my mistarfin. What does it mean that the boards will join together? Mistarfin arba. It will join together to make a problem. And it will be possible because according to Shmuel, everyone agrees that once you have a board of 4 tfachim, it will be a problem, and so therefore this is so it makes sense. Rav Meir said it makes sense that they join together. Now Elul Rab the Amar b'sheish ben arba machlekes, but according to Rab that says the whole machlekes is above 4. Ava'im ben arba divrei kol kashera, but less than 4, everyone agrees that it's going to be kosher. Hechidami, how is this going to work? If there really is 4 tfachim of one board, then why are you joining them together? If it's less than 4, which is in our case, we have less than 4 beams next to each other. Everyone agrees that it's just Kanan Ba'alma. We just view them as reeds. So therefore, why are you joining them together? What is there to join together? They're just every schach has the schach touching each other. So what's the problem with it? If we're talking about if it's less than 4, in our case is that it's going to be less than 4. So la'olam dispu arba. So really we're talking about that there's 4 tfachim. So ma'amar shafina. So what are they joining in together? Because if each board is 4 tfachim, even according to Rab, the 4 plus 4 is 8. So what? Then you have a machlekes. But what's it? According to Rab, he holds. Rav Meir is going to say that anything above 4 is going to be possible. Okay, and then Rabbi Yehuda is going to say anything above 4 remains kosher. So what's there to be started? I have 2 boards of 4. So according to Rav Meir, it's already a problem with 1 board. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's never going to be a problem altogether. So how do you explain this joining together of boards, and the board's more than 4, we have no choice but to say the board is more than 4 tfachim, or 4 tfachim plus. What's the joining together? How does he understand this brisa? So my Master Finan, arba amais min hatzad. He's not, according to Rab, he understands the brisa. It's not coming to tell us 4 tfachim. It's coming to tell us that I have 2 boards that join together jointly to create 4 amais. Now we're talking a lot more. We're talking about 2 amais and 2 amais. Then it's going to cause a problem of that. You're not going to be able to say doifik al kuma. Meaning it's like this: that we have no choice but to say that according to Rav, that this idea that the boards join together or they don't join together is going to be going on not the tfachim, because according to him 1 to 4 plus is we can't really plug that into either machlekes, as I said. If it's 4 tfachim wide, then according to Rav Meir, it's already a problem. There's nothing to join together. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, anything 4 plus, even if you join them together, who cares? I can have an 8-10 tfachim board, and still it's not going to cause a problem. Rabbi Yehuda says that there is no xeris ticker according to Rav. There is no worry of that. You might think that it's a roof, but we will go into problem once they hit 4 tfachim. That if you have puzzle, now the halacha is a doifin akuma. If I have on the side of my sukkah, I have pasal chesach. So the real halacha is pasal chesach more than 4 tfachim wide will invalidate the entire sukkah, unless it's on the side. If it's touching the wall, if it's extending 4 tfachim into my sukkah from the wall, then I can say doifin akuma. I can say the slanting wall cloths. I'll just say I'm ignoring the fact that this pasal schach because it's connected to the wall. Or at least if it's perhaps 4 amos from the wall. So I'm just going to say that it's slanting to wherever the pasal schach stops. However, if I have more than 4 amos of pasal schach, and even Rav is going to agree, if I have 4 tefachim of a solid board coming out from my sukkah, that's not good schach. Even he will agree, or once it gets to that amount, he will agree that you need some sort of, you have to be able to see something, right? And also besides the fact that it could be in the Kabbalah. So according to him, once I reach more than 4 amos, I have an invalid sukkah because I no longer say Daifin Akuma. Daifin Akuma is only up to 4 amos. So what did he mean? He will say that if I have an amma board and an amma board and an amma board pushed together with no hole in between of them, at that point, if I'm reaching more than 4 amos, I will not be able to say Daifin Akuma, and that's what this means to say. It will be mistarif. It will be mistarif in order not to be able to say Daifin Akuma, the slanting, and you can no longer say the slanting wall. Everyone understand? Any questions?
Yes. So we're looking at a cumulative for Amma against. So each board can be. Your boards can't be an Amma wide. They can only be 4 tefach wide.
So no. So this is a part which I'm not so clear on myself. Meaning, according to Rab, the way he understands, according to the way he understands Rabbi Yehuda, there is no limit technically to the boards. Technically, there is no limit. I just think there is we don't know the point. There is some point. Even Rabbi Yehuda is going to say this is a roof. It's not schach, right? So at some point we're going to say this is no good. And it looks like so we are willing to. I don't know how many boards have to put together to look like a roof. Maybe that there's no space in between. You just push together a bunch of beams which are each an amma. Push them together, or maybe 2 amos and 2 amos. For sure, 2 amos. That's the limit. Yeah. You have to join them together. So I have 2 amos board against a 2 amos board, actually no space in between. At that point, I'll say it's joining together, and I can no longer say Daifin Akuma because it's more than 4 amos.
Now, if you have the sukkah, if that represents half the roof, and then the other half is valid shkach that you can see through, is it just that you could sit under the boards, but you could sit
where,
under the other part of the roof?
Which area? Once you have invalid schach, it invalidates the entire
You're
sukkah.
saying it's invalid.
Unless it's next to unless it's 4 amos within the wall for us to utilize the Daifin Akuma.
If you had an overhang in your house.
That's good. You can use Daifin Akuma. Right. You could use Daifin Akuma on that. Because usually you're not going to have. It's not going to be 8 feet from the wall. Usually, your overhang is not going to be 8 feet from the. Right. Okay.
But that portion that's under
You can't sit underneath it because we don't look at it as if that's the sukkah, the roof of the sukkah. Okay. Now Lishna Achrina, another way to say all this, another version. According to Shmuel, that says that there's no according to Shmuel that said that the machlekes is between 3 and 4 tefachim, but above 4 tefachim, everyone will agree that it's going to be invalid. Avish ben arba divrei kol pasol, and above 4, everyone will agree it's going to be pasol. And in this case, everyone. Okay, I'll just leave. In this case, we will talk about Rameir because if you look at the top line of the Amud, we only have Rameir. The Brisa has a Tanakama. We don't know if the Tanakama is Rabbi Yehuda or not, so we could ignore that. We're just going to say it's Rameir. So according this Brisa makes sense because according to Shmuel, we're talking about it's above 4. They were called Pasula, my Mistarfinan. Why do we come to Mitzarif? Because what do you mean coming according to Rameir? We're coming to Mitzarif to 4 tefachim. My Mistarfinan. So, hold on. Another way to say this is that, according to Rameir, where 4 tefachim is going to be pasol, what are we coming to join? Even less than 4 tefachim is going to be pasol. So why do you have to go ahead and join it together? You're not gaining anything because even less, according to Rameir, less than 4 tefachim is a problem. So why gain? What is 2 plus 2 giving you 4 is any better than 3 itself? 3 is pasol. 2 plus 2 is also going to be pasol. So what are you coming to join? We're coming to join 4 amos, also dealing 4 amos. El Rav, we're going to Rav B'Shleim, El Rameir, my Misarfinon, Mastarfin Arba Amos Benatzad. Him too, we're dealing also according to Rav, according to Rameir. What's it coming to Mitzarf? Because it has to be 4 plus. He also holds that it's going to be Mitzarf from the side. El Rav Yehuda Amar Fil Yishben Arba Kshera, my Misarfinon. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, that that said that that fork is going to be kosher. El Rabbi Yehuda Damar Afil Yesh Pen Arba. According to Rabbi Yehuda, says even if it's four, it's going to be kosher. My imisarfina. What do you mean it's not going to be mitzaref? Who cares? It's never going to be mitzaref because according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tefachim, and you don't have to. It's still going to be kosher. So what do you mean it's not going to join up? Of course, it's not going to join up. There's nothing to join up to. So kana ba'almaninu. It's just regular reads. Aidi the kamar Meir misarfinan. Rabbi Yehuda imisarfinan. Since Meir had to say that it's not going to be mitzaref, also Rabbi Yehuda it's not going to be mitzaref, but all he means is going to be kosher. Okay. Another way to say what we just said. Tani kavasi dra. Tani kavasi to Shmuel. We're going to bring a proof to Rav, and we're going to bring a proof to Shmuel. Tani kavasi dra. This is the following brisa that is a proof to Rav. Sachacha ben esarim shel erez. If I put up schach of cedar, which is very thick, shein ben arba, which is not going to be 4 tefachim, they were called kshera. Everyone agrees it's going to be kosher. Yesh ben arba, Rameir pasol, Rameir machsher. Rameir is, if there is 4, Rameir is going to say it's invalid. Rabbi Yehuda is going to say that it's kosher. So, which is perfectly as as Rav understands our Mishnah. According to Rav, anything less than 4, kosher. Above 4, we have a machlekes, we have an argument between Rabbi Yehuda and Rameir. So now, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Maisa, I have a story, Bishash Hasakana, that it was a time when whoever was the ruling government did not let the Jews sit in a sukkah. So if you were sitting in a sukkah, it was dangerous. So you were putting your life in danger. So what would they do? So they had a little trick. What they would do is that just off the place for a second. So what they would do is Shavinu Nisarim Shehu Behen Arba. They would bring planks of wood which are 4 tefachim wide. And they would take it. They would place it on top of their porch. And they sat underneath it and they utilized that as a sukkah. Now, okay, so from here he has a proof because he could say is that it was a time when it was dangerous and the way they got around it was using 4 tefachim wide. So here I have a proof that obviously it's permitted to use 4 tefachim. And the authorities didn't know they're sitting in a sukkah. They thought they're sitting in a house because it was very wide beams anyway. So they answered him, Misham Raya. From there you bring a Raya from a time when it was dangerous to sit in a sukkah and they had to do some trick way around it. Ain't Shasas Kan Raya. You can't bring a proof from a Shasas Kan. You can't bring a proof when from dangerous times because at that point they will be extremely lenient and rely on anything they can find. Okay. Now Tanik Vasidi Shmuel. We have a brayso according to Shmuel. Sachacha bin Sarim shel Eres. If I go ahead and I'm using planks of wood of cedar. Sheish ben Arba. And there's 4 tefachim wide, everyone agrees it's going to be invalid. And ben arba, but you don't have 4 tefachim. Rameir paisel, Rabbi Yehuda machsher. If it's less than 4, then Rameir says it's invalid. Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher. Moed Rameir shemesh ben neser leneser kemoli neser. Now Rameir happens to agree that if I have between each plank of wood the same amount of the plank of wood, so according to Rameir, 3 tefachim plus is going to be a problem. But if I have a plank of wood 3 tefachim, then I have airspace of 3 tefachim, 3 tefachim, 3 wood, 3 airspace. At that point, it will be permitted. Why? Because at that point, it's yesh ben neser neser kamali neser sheminiach paso b'neim v'kshera. Sorry. It's not that I have airspace. That I have a plank of wood which is 3 tefachim, and then I put regular schach in between it. If I have a plank of wood of 3, then regular schach 3, and then 3 of schach, 3 of wood, 3 of schach. At that point, we'll say that it's going to be. Kosher. Okay. Now that was Rameir. However, Rameir does agree. Rabbi Yehuda, who says that everyone agrees that more than 4 tefachim is valid, he holds you shouldn't sleep on bottom of it. Now, because according to him, even though technically it's true, it's going to be kosher, but the problem is he's a little nervous, and he explains. But he's a little afraid that if there is the one time when it could be that a plank of wood more than 4 tefachim will not be a sukkah, usually is a sukkah. So when it's on the side, then technically it's as if there's an extension of the roof because I have a plank of a board there. So the board will extend the house. So if I sleep underneath it, and that's going to be Dofen Akuma. That's again going to be the slanted wall. So technically, you should never sleep under, even though more than 4 tefachim, according to Rav's understanding of Yehuda, is permitted. It's a kosher sukkah. The reason you shouldn't sleep underneath it is that if that's against the wall, Dofen Akuma will kick in, and it'll be as if you're not sleeping under a sukkah. Because it's as if you have an overhang. Exactly what it is. It's as if you have an overhang to your house, because you have a solid piece of board on the edge of the sukkah, and therefore I can't sleep underneath it. Okay.
And on the edge would be less than 3 tefachim.
What do you mean? On the edge of less than 3 tefachim?
I mean, what defines on the edge? Does it have to be against the edge?
I think so.
Or if
I
you
do
wanna
think it has to be
get
within.
3
Has to
tefachim
be. I think it has to be with 4 amos, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has to be 4 amos. At any point, it could be within 4
No,
amos.
but I mean, you
kick
got
in.
your food blank. Does it have to be right against the edge?
No, I
Or
think
if you're within 3 tefachim for lavud?
for 3 tefachim for sure, but I think within 4 amos you could even kick in. Dofen Akuma will kick in. Up to 4 amos. That's what we were learning above.
Yeah.
That Dofen Akuma could be a problem up to 4 amos. I don't think it has to be flush against the wall. Maybe if you have any pasal schach within 4 amos of the wall, at that point we'll just say Dofen Akuma. Okay. Now Idmar, Hovchanal today. What happens if you flip them up on your side? So if instead of the beams going flat, I'm flipping them up, and the height, they're vertical, and the height is upward. So now technically at this point, it's not 4 tefachim anymore, right? It's 4 tefachim high, but whatever the width is, it's going to be a lot less. So what about that? So Hovchanal saying Rav Huna Amar Psula. Rav Huna is going to say that it's pasul because it has a name Psul on it. Once something's pasul, it's going to be pasul. It's always going to be pasul. Rav Chisda Rabbi Rav Huna Amar Kshera. But Rav Chisda Amar Rav Huna said it's going to be kosher. Now, Ikla the Rav Nachman l'Sura. So Rav Nachman came to Surah. O legabi Rav Chisda Rabbi Bar Huna. So Rav Chisda and Rabbi Bar Huna went up to him to talk to him about this question, hoping to say that he takes their side, that is kosher. And they asked him, if you flip it on your side, what's the halacha? He's like, it's pasul. Just like if I went ahead and I have pasul schach of metal, and instead of putting it one way, I put it the other, it doesn't make a difference. Pasul schach of pasul schach. It's not going to help you. So once it has the name of pasul, once it has the quote unquote name of being invalid, it's going to be invalid. Okay, so he agreed with Rav Huna. He agreed with Rav Chisda bar Rav Huna. He agreed with Rav Chisda. He agreed with Rav Huna and not with Rav Chisda. So Amr Rav Huna lo yamr kuli hakavasi. So Rav Huna went back. So now then they come to Rav Huna, and as if they tell Rav Huna, we went them and you're right. He said, so why, of course I'm right. Why do you bother asking him? Amr who? Me Amar lan mar. And he said, Amar le umi Amar le mar time like abinamina. He's like, so the students answered back is that we went to ask Rav Nach because you never gave us an answer. You just said it's pasul. You never told us why, so we didn't trust you. Therefore, we went to ask. So did you ask for a reason that I did not give? Okay, fine. That's the end of that story. So lema Messiah, maybe we could bring a proof for Rav Huna and Rav Nachman, but both say if you flip it over, it's not going to work. If I have a sukkah which cannot hold. If I have a sukkah which cannot hold, it's not big enough to hold the head and the majority of the body and the table. We'll see all another something which a sukkah has to be that the walls have to be low enough to the ground that it'll block a goat coming in with its head fully upright, which we'll get to. Or, this is what's important to us, or you place a board which is 4 tefachim wide. We're putting a 4 tefachim wide board on your schach, but only 3 tefachim is coming in and 1 tefach is staying out. Now, hechidami, what's the case of it? How do you have such a case? So, is it not that we are going ahead and you're flipping it over on its side? So we said that an invalid sukkah is 4 tefachim, but 1 tefach is not in it. That's still going to be invalid, even because I'm utilizing a 4 tefach board, even though only a 4. Now usually 3 tefach board is permitted, but this is a 4 tefach board, even though 1 tefach is out. Now, what does it mean one tefach is out? Does not that mean that it's on its side? So it's sort of vertical, and therefore you only have. So therefore, a lot of the you could look at it as if the board, a lot of its hanging is more going up to is going upwards and not on top of the schach. Like as you explained till now, like that one of the boards, one of the boards is going to be at the side of the wall, which is open. The dial is on the fourth wall. The aisle cluster legoy v'afechad lebar. That most of it's on top of the sukkah, but one is an overhang outside the sukkah. The have a pasal hayitzim in a sukkah, and it's like something in that. And now I might think that's not a problem because if I have a 4 tefach board, and this 4 tefach board is going to be in the sukkah. If I have a 4 tefach board and the 4 tefach board is going to be in the sukkah, so that's a problem. But if I have the 3 tefachim in and 1 tefach out, just as an overhang, so I might be kosher because at the end of the day, I don't have 4 tefachim on the board in my house. Only in my sukkah, I only have 1 tefach. I only have 3 tefachim. I might think it's permitted to have a pasal yisim in the sukkah, pasal yisim in the sukkah, nida kesukkah. No, it's not going to work because it's an extension of the sukkah. An extension of the sukkah is permitted. For example, if I have my sukkah, I have 3 walls of my sukkah, and the 4th wall is open, and somehow I extend my schach past the 3 walls. I have long beams going beyond the end of the wall, and I'm able to balance it properly. I put schach on there. It's permitted to eat under the area with the schach with no wall, because the walls of the sukkah are the kosher size. The sukkah is kosher size, but as an extension to the sukkah, we look as if that's under the sukkah. So also the other way around. If I have a 4 tefach, if I have a beam of wood going past my sukkah, and it's going to be 4 tefachim, just because I say it's 3 tefachim to the end of the wall, we don't say that. We also apply it to, in the stringent fashion. We say no, your sukkah is extending to the end of that board, and therefore I have a 4 tefach board in my sukkah.
What's our maximum on that overhang?
To extend the sukkah?
Yeah.
I don't think there is a maximum that I'm aware of.
As long as you can balance it.
As long as you can balance it, right? I mean, I guess you could put, supporting beams as well.
So
Okay.
question then, what if the part that sticks out extends under something like a tree or a real roof or something? Would that then make it invalid?
Is that going to invalidate the sukkah? I assume not, because the only part of the sukkah is really, as long as you know for a fact that it's not extending over everything else. But if I have a valid sukkah anyway, and I have that as invalid, just don't eat underneath it. It won't invalidate the entire sukkah. I'm assuming it will not invalidate the entire sukkah because you're still gonna. The rest of the sukkah has the shade. It has the shade coming from this. Right? I mean, you're saying is for a fact that the invalidation is only over this area. So don't eat under the area. It's not gonna invalidate the entire sukkah because you have 3 walls. Meaning, if you chop off that area, you still have a kosher sukkah. So it shouldn't be a problem. At least I would think it's not a problem. Okay, let's start the Mishna and then we'll end. Yeah.
The boards when they're set on end.
Yeah.
You said that was invalid?
No, so we wanted to say it's machlekes. If I take it's machlekes, and I think the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, so it could be it's not a problem anyway. I have to look it up. I'm not sure what the halacha is like technically, but we said it's machlekes, and the opinion seems to be that it's invalid. Once a sukkah is invalid by its width, just because, by its depth or width, I don't know how we want to call it, not by its length. But if you flip it over, now the issue is its height. It still remains a puzzle. As we said, like if you take metal one way and I put metal a different way, metal is metal. Metal is puzzle. I don't care what you do with it, it's puzzle. So this beam is deemed invalid schach no matter how you put it, wherever you put it. Okay, we're on the Mishna on top of 15a. Tikrush inala ma'aziva. If I have a roof or I just have beams that just a regular wood beams on top of my roof that do not have any don't have any plaster or tar over it. Rehuda says the following: So how do you go ahead and make that kosher for sukkah for my schach? Meaning, I just want to take my house. I have beams. I'm able to pick them up. They're not nailed in. I want to use my house as my sukkah. Is there a way to do that? Reb Shami seems to say, first of all, you have to go ahead and pick each one up to make it placed in for the sake of shade, not of a sukkah. And also, the same. And also, you have to go ahead and take out a beam and put schach in one place. Or according to Beis Hillel, you have to go ahead and move them, or you go ahead and you place schach between them. Rameir says Rameir says no. You do the different way. Is that you don't have to move them. Rather, you just go ahead and you cover and you place schach between them. So we have a machikis. If I have a roof, I have a roof which is technically the planks are kosher for schach, but it was placed there to be a roof year round. So according to Beis Shammai, you move them and you have to fill in a little bit. According to Beis Hillel, you move them or you fill it in. Or Meir says you don't have to move them and just fill them in. We're going to stop here because when we start into the Gemara, it's going to take us longer than we need. Okay. Everyone have a great day. Any questions?